Hi, I'm Helmut Licht. Thank you for joining me. In this video, I would like to discuss the idea of dispositorship. A planet's dispositor is the ruler of the sign in which the planet is found. For instance, if the sun is in Cancer, the moon rules Cancer. Therefore, the moon is the sun's dispositor. Another way to put it, a baby in its crib is in its own environment. It can do what it wants to do. It can roll to the left, roll to the right, sit up, kick its legs. However, if mom picks the baby up, then the baby is pretty much controlled by mom. If mom spins to the right, the baby spins right. If mom happens to stumble and fall down, the baby pretty much goes through the same experience. If mom gives the baby a hug and a kiss, then the baby feels mom's love. It's the same with planets. When a planet is in a sign it rules, it's in its crib. It can do what it wants to do, no restrictions, no limitations. However, if the planet is in a sign it does not rule, then the ruler of that sign becomes mom. And whatever happens to mom, to a certain extent, will influence the planet. That's the best way I can put it. Now, before we discuss dispositorship, we have to quickly discuss rulership, because planets rule in two ways. They rule by house position and by sign. For those of you who already know all this, I invite you to stay anyway, because I will be using President Obama's chart, which I'm working on right now. And you might discover a few things at the end that you might not be aware of. All right, let's get started. For this particular video, I will use Astro App. It's an online astrology software. So you type in astroapp.com and up comes the screen. It says launch Astro App. I click on it. Here's the main screen. I go into charts and my favorite chart. Here we go. Here's Obama's chart. I click on it, highlight it, and then say open. All right, here's President Obama's chart. Now, one by one. The first thing we do is look for a planet or planets who are in their own sign. Look at the sun in the 6th house. It is located in Leo, which is its own sign. Therefore, the sun has no dispositor. Look at Saturn in the 12th house. It is located in Capricorn, its own sign. Therefore, it has no dispositor. All the other planets have dispositors because they are not in their own sign. Since the Sun and Saturn have no dispositor, we will put them at the very top. Next, we will look and see if there are any other planets located in Leo. And sure enough, we have Mercury in Leo and we have Uranus in Leo. And as you can see, our tree is growing downwards. Again, since both Uranus and Mercury are in Leo, the Sun is their dispositor. Saturn rules two signs. It rules Capricorn because it's its own sign, and it also co-rules Aquarius together with Uranus. So now we have to look and see if there are any planets in either Capricorn or Aquarius. And we see that Jupiter is in Aquarius. Therefore, Saturn is the dispositor of Jupiter. Next, we will look at the two planets who are located in Leo. There is Mercury and Uranus. Then we ask the question, what signs does Mercury rule? Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. And then we ask, what sign does Uranus rule? And the answer is Aquarius. Then we go back to Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini. So we ask what planets are in Gemini. And there's the moon down in the fourth house. It's in Gemini. Therefore, Mercury is the moon's dispositor. Mercury also rules Virgo, so we have to ask ourselves what planets are in Virgo. And in the seventh house, we have Pluto in Virgo and also Mars in Virgo. Therefore, Mercury is the dispositor of Pluto and Mars. So far, we have discussed all the planets except Venus and Neptune. Venus is in Cancer, therefore its dispositor is the moon. Neptune is in Scorpio, therefore it has two dispositors, because Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So Mars and Pluto both are Neptune's dispositors. One last item. We know that Jupiter is in Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn as well as Uranus. So we have to also show that Uranus is the co-ruler or co-dispositor of Jupiter. We can now establish tiers or echelons. In the very top we have the Sun, which reports to nobody. It has no planets above it. It has no dispositor. And also Saturn over here on the right side, which has no planet above it, no dispositor, no one to report to, subjugated to nothing. Then we have the second tier. With respect to the Sun, that would be Mercury and Uranus. With respect to Saturn, it would be Jupiter. On the third level, the third tier or the third echelon would be, with respect to the Sun, it would be the Moon, Pluto, and Mars, and also Jupiter. They are each 2 steps removed from the Sun. The Moon through Mercury to the Sun, Pluto through Mercury to the Sun, Mars through Mercury to the Sun, and Jupiter through Uranus to the Sun. On the fourth and final tier, we have 2 planets, Venus and Neptune. Venus has to go through the Moon and then Mercury to get to the Sun. Neptune has 2 choices. It can either go through Pluto and Mercury to the Sun, or it can go through Mars and Mercury to the Sun. Looking at the arrows right now, everything is moving from the lower tiers to the upper tiers, from Venus and Neptune all the way up to the Sun, from Jupiter up to Saturn, and from Jupiter up to the Sun. But this does not have to be. This is a two-way situation. For instance, the arrows could very well be reversed, as you see now, and everything is moving from the Sun downwards and from Saturn downwards. And this might be better understood if we change this structure here to a company structure. In the upper left-hand corner, you see the structure that we have been working with, and notice that the arrows are going both ways. Now, let's make the Sun the owner and president of a company. And let's make Saturn a partner in the company. And let's make Mercury and Uranus vice presidents of the company. And let's make the moon, Pluto, and Mars managers in the company. And let's make Jupiter a secretary. And let's make Venus and Neptune also secretaries down here. As you can see here, the owner and president of a company is the absolute ruler. He's in charge. What he says goes ultimately. There's no one that he reports to, except possibly his partner. But he pretty much runs the entire company. He or she is the final authority because he or she invested all their money, took all the risks. If the company goes down, his money, her money is gone. If the company does well, the risk gets rewarded. One of the questions I ask myself when I see such a dispositor diagram, how would such a person who is the final authority, who has no one above him or her to report to, fit into our form of government? In our form of government, the president is not the final authority. He shares his executive power with the legislative branch and the judicial branch. And most of all, there is a higher authority, which is the Constitution. So there are several ways this could be handled. Reduce the power of the legislative branch, and then reduce the power of the judicial branch. Eliminate the vice president, and then eliminate or disregard the Constitution. And then elevate yourself to the top, and then why not get rid of the legislative and the judicial branch, or at least render them totally inconsequential. But this would be totally un-American and totally against our way of government in the traditional sense, in the conservative sense, in the way it was set up originally and intended to be executed. There's yet another way to look at this structure. I have studied the Hermetic system of astrology as propounded by the Brotherhood of Light. And I'm reading from course 13, which is entitled Doctrine of Mundane Astrology, page 44 and page 45. I'm reading the meanings of the various planets in politics. The sun rules the bosses and the ruling class. The moon, the common people and women. Mercury, the press. Venus, the so-called society element. Mars rules the military profession, militarism. Jupiter rules capitalism. Saturn rules conservatism, the farmers and the miners. Uranus rules the radical element. Neptune rules the ideal, the utopian. Pluto rules compulsory cooperation. This concludes my first video on dispositorship. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. In my second video, I will show how dispositorship becomes modified as the years progress. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Happy astrology.